Not even the lingering energy from the shadow challenge had fully dissipated when I realized something even darker was approaching. As I watched the recruits of Umbra Noctis disperse in celebration or deep thought, Kalitha's words echoed in my mind like a haunting spell. The shadows whisper, Eryon, and what they reveal must never be ignored. I felt the air around me grow thick and charged. The nighttime silence in the corridor seemed to cough up secrets, as if the walls themselves leaned in to hear what was about to unfold. Before I even closed my eyes, I knew that this night would be marked by Malrich's first move, a portent of conflict that would test not only my skill but the very loyalty within our guild. The moon had already passed its zenith when Kalith discreetly nudged me. Arion, wake up. Malrich has convened a secret council. The room was still cloaked in shadows, but my heart pounded. Without another word, I followed Kalith through the silent corridors. Each step echoed like a war drum. We reached a door concealed behind black tapestries, the entrance to the chamber where Malrich plotted his strike. Peering through a narrow crack, we saw Malrich Umbra standing in a hidden hall, flanked by his cruelest allies, Raven, whose eyes cut like blades, and Leora, whose malice hid behind a wicked smile. Malrich lifted his chin with the air of someone who believes he controls others' fates. "The time has come," he declared, his voice reverberating through the darkness. "Umbra is ours. The Valerian have had their day. Now it's our turn to shape this realm." Raven relaxed his shoulders and grinned maliciously. "And that lost heir. He thinks he can just come back and claim what's ours." Malrich arched an eyebrow, staring straight at the shadows where I hid. Eryon Valerian is an obstacle. But he's new here. He doesn't understand how the shadows truly work. Let's remind him of his place. In that moment, I realized their plan: to eliminate or disgrace the heir before he could cement his position. Every word struck like a blade. I slipped away silently, knowing that the war to come would be one of cunning and blood.
Quick tip to level up your experience. Read Manhwas and light novels for free. Listen to epic audiobooks. Watch unlimited anime. Play cloud games with no console. And stream the best anime soundtracks. Check the description now and grab your free trials.
Dawn had barely kissed the ramparts when Zerith proclaimed the start of the exercise in the shadow corridor. The torches trembled, casting warped silhouettes against the cold stone, an ideal setting for an ambush. My chest tightened, and each footfall sounded like a hammer blow against the silence. Kalith slipped in beside me with the stealth of a cat. Her eyes flicked from torch to torch, noting every irregularity. Malrich tampered with the corridor's runes. Expect spectral blades, poisonous smoke, and binding seals. He wants to see you fall. She pressed an ancient scroll into my hand. Its faint sigils pulsed at my touch. I gripped it tight, feeling the energy humming beneath the parchment. As I stepped into the corridor, the walls seemed to breathe, closing in like ravenous serpents. First came the spectral blades erupting from the floor. Before they could rend me, I swept the scroll over the activating rune. The runes flared red for a heartbeat, then died. The blades froze mid-air, and a razor-sharp hush fell over the passage. A flash of triumph reminded me that shadows respond when you know their language. No sooner had I tasted victory than the torches cracked and a veil of scorching smoke poured from the walls. Each breath threatened to poison me. I invoked the eternity to filter the air. A halo of light pulsed around my face, dispersing the fumes before they could overwhelm me. Raven's distant growl echoed, impotent against my shield. As the smoke thinned, I spotted a side panel hanging ajar. Kalith whispered in my mind, "Use your shadow pulse to break the barrier." I gathered dark energy into my fist and slammed it against the stone. The impact roared like contained thunder, and the panel slid open, revealing a narrow, pitch-black passage, the escape route Malrich never imagined. A sharp grin split my face. Surviving wasn't enough. I'd turn his game into his undoing. Before plunging into the secret tunnel, I cast one last glance at Raven and Leora, their eyes wide with shock. They'd underestimated who truly commanded the darkness. It was time to show that I mastered the shadows, not the other way around. The snap of spectral blades slicing through the air sounded like thunder trapped in a storm. I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet. The aura around me stirred in response to the challenge. Without hesitation, I plunged my palms into the streaks of darkness seeping from the walls and shaped them into a black shield, hard as freshly forged obsidian. Each blade that struck it ricocheted off in shards of shadow, obediently returning to its source and raking my attackers with the very fury they had intended for me. I saw Raven's triumphant grin twist into shock when one of those jet-black shards pierced his ethereal guard. It was the moment darkness ceased to be my enemy and became my most loyal ally. Drawing a deep breath, I absorbed the corridor's echo and converted its resonance into a silent roar, unleashing a whirlwind of shadows that scourged the floor and erased the binding runes as if they'd never existed. Leora, clutching her paralysis crystal, squeezed her eyes shut when I charged. Her spell flared violet, but I was already beyond its reach. I channeled the eternity and, with a fluid motion, lashed bands of shadow around the crystal, crushing it until luminescent shards scattered through the air, blinding her senses. The reflected flash danced off the walls, leaving trails of cold light amid the chaos. At the corridor's end, Malrich stood panting, the runes on his cuirass quivering with rage. His followers recoiled, stunned. That's when I dissolved into the darkness itself, becoming the void between the torches. He spun, searching for me, but I was already behind him, feeling the thundering pulse of his heartbeat against his back. "So this is how the shadows fight," I whispered, my voice low as a whip. I concentrated every tendril of dark energy into my right fist and struck the pillar beside Malrich. The impact cracked like a shotgun blast through the stones, and from the blow burst coils of shadow that snaked around the traitor like living serpents. He struggled free, but their grip only tightened, crushing his armor and wringing a strangled cry of surprise from him. The corridor fell into an electric silence, broken only by the drip of ruptured shadows. In Malrich's eyes, I saw one undeniable truth. He who commands his own darkness does not fear the traps others deem invincible. And in that moment, I knew our internal war had changed forever, because I was no longer the target. I was the master of the shadows. When the shadowy chains dispersed into a thin mist, the shadow corridor fell into a silence thick with tension. Master Zerith emerged from the darkness with the gravitas of one who balances arcane justice. Each of his footsteps reverberated off the cold stones, heralding the judgment to come. "Malrich Umbra," his voice rang out, unwavering, "you have corrupted the purpose of this place. There is no room here for intrigues meant only to exalt one individual." With a precise gesture, Zerith made the ancestral runes etched into the ceiling flare. In a silver flash, every remaining trap was neutralized. The ethereal blades drifted to the floor like dry petals, and the poisonous fog dissolved on a soft exhale. Malrich's companions recoiled, heads bowed, while he himself stood motionless, his chest rising and falling in a measured rhythm of fury and humiliation. "Today, I allow you to remain standing only because I see value in your boldness, but do not mistake mercy for weakness," Zerith continued, fixing his gaze on Malrich without a hint of compassion. "He who wields the shadows must honor their power and protect the guild, not conspire against it." The weight of that verdict made Malrich's breath falter, and his once proud stare wavered before Zerith's unshakable authority. Without a word, he withdrew, led away by his followers, each of his steps dragging the weight of his shattered reputation. As the corridor emptied, I felt the walls regain their solidity, as though the very blush of shame had sealed away the echoes of conflict. My chest expanded in a contained sigh of relief. I had survived the most treacherous test I'd ever faced, and the Order of Umbra Noctis had been restored, at least for now. I left the corridor with my mind sharpened and my heart heavy, aware that although Zerith had brought back peace, the internal fractures remained. Every shadow in that place now carried a new meaning, no longer a symbol of fear, but of vigilance. And as I walked on, one thought rang louder than any fanfare. In the invisible war ahead, the true victory would be to keep honor alive, even when the shadows insist on whispering betrayal. Later, I found Caliph in one of the darker alleys of the compound. Her gaze was as sharp as the blade she so often carried on her back. "He won't stop," she said quietly. "Malrich is furious. And he isn't alone." I sensed other shadows stirring. The idea of a larger conspiracy forming struck me like a blade. This might not be merely an internal rebellion, but something that reached beyond Umbra Noctis. I inhaled deeply, feeling the Valerian ring pulse with newfound urgency. "Then we need to be ready," I replied. "Not just for him, but for any shadow that dares conspire against the legacy I bear." Caliph nodded, her expression hardened by resolve. The shadows are in motion, Arion, and we will be the blade that severs their deceit. As the moon drifted across the sky, its light glinting off the steel of my ancestral sword, I knew this was only the first of many steps in the silent war to come. With every breath, the shadows murmured secrets and promises of power. But this time, it would be my voice that rang the loudest. With my heart ablaze with conviction and my mind razor-sharp, I walked alongside Caliph, ready for the confrontation that would inevitably decide not only Malrich's fate, but the future of all Umbra Noctis, and perhaps of all Aetheris.
Did you enjoy the video? Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This helps us know which stories you love most and which ones we should prioritize in future productions. Your support is essential for us to keep bringing you the best manhwa content every day. See you in the next episode.